Hello there. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that is maybe a little bit later in the day for you. Maybe you're grabbing dinner, maybe you're getting ready for bed, and maybe you're going to get the recording, and that is totally fine. But we really wanted to jump in and talk about balance. And if you don't know me, my name is Jenny. I am a national board health and wellness coach and a diabetes prevention program lifestyle coach from the CDC. And I work with a lot of pre-diabetics, type 2 diabetics, and people that are having blood sugar imbalances. And I have with me Carol Rubino. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but she is amazing. She's a fellow health coach and certified yoga instructor. And we decided to get together and talk about balance and what balance means, not just on your plate, right? Like, not about having balance with your energy, but also balance with your body. Just because I kept seeing a lot of different clips that she was sharing as to how you can actually improve your balance, what the CDC says about that. And I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Great. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you, Jenny, for having me on. My name is Carol Rubino, and I am a certified yoga instructor and a balance specialist. And I work with people who are over 40 and even seniors, even older, with balance. Just making sure that we strengthen our muscles and practice balance so that we reduce the risk of falling.
Yeah. So I am curious because I know you work with people 40 and over. What are some of like the biggest changes and challenges that you see? Because newsflash, as a side note, Carol was a guest at my podcast, and we did talk about yoga and like a lot of things about yoga that are intimidating even to me. But she explained a lot of how she uses yoga for functional purposes, right? Like for you to be able to function. So please, like share. What are some of the changes and challenges?
Yeah. So some of the changes and challenges that come after, 40, 50, 60, we start to lose our balance even at those ages, and we lose muscle strength, we lose mobility, and kind of the combination of all three is kind of a recipe for, risk of falling. So, we need strong muscles, and we need to be able to move, and we need to be able to balance. So yeah, yeah.
So muscle strength, flexibility and stability, and being able to do that, that is super important. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Well, you may be thinking, okay, like what is in it and why does it change as you age, right? And maybe even why does it change in terms of weight, in terms of your food, in terms of your energy, right? Like before, when you're
Right.
younger in your 20s, right, it seems like you only needed to sleep 5 hours and you could skip meals and nothing would happen. But the moment that you start getting a bit older, even in your 30s and 40s, you start seeing those changes also in energy. And
Hmm.
that's where having a balanced plate is important. And I know a lot of people would ask me when they book clarity calls or even clients, they're like, what does it mean to have a balanced plate? And a lot of people think that it is about, oh, I need to go vegetarian or I need to just have vegetables. And like, it's not about that, but more about having balance in terms of the food groups. So you should have protein, you should have fiber, and you should have fat. And that should be in all of your meals and also your snacks. You should think about that when it comes to your snacks and your meals, just because when that doesn't happen, and let's say maybe you get a little bit of a carb heavy, you start seeing the shifts on your energy, you start seeing your shifts on your mood, and I would even dare to say also on balance, because now you're not as focused, you're not as sharp. Some
Hmm.
people, when they're getting that blood sugar spike and then they get that 3 p.m. crash, you're kind of fatigued, you're not really that focused, so that can also impact your overall balance.
Yeah.
And I would love to have Carol share a little bit about what are some ways, and I know you've been sharing some videos, but what are some ways that people can incorporate to improve their balance? Because I started doing some of these exercises and I am not 50 or 60. And I realized that I am not as strong and as fit when it comes to balance as I probably thought I was.
Hmm. Hmm. So, one of the things I realize is when we walk, every time we take a step in our walking, we are briefly balancing. So, we already have kind of this built in balance system, and we just need to nurture it and make it stronger. And so, one of the simplest ways to do that is to practice standing on one leg. And, it can be done incrementally so that it's more functional, so it's more encouraging and feels less defeating. Meaning, you could start by just, lifting your heel up, teasing your toes off the floor. Once you feel comfortable with that, let your foot hover, just that kind of thing. Walking heel toe. And I always tell people one of the ways you can practice doing that is, when you get up to go to the bathroom, heel toe your way to the bathroom or to the mailbox or to the car. Those are fun ways to, incorporate, trying to do more balancing. If you're brushing your teeth, you can stand on one leg. If you're at the grocery store waiting in a bank line, you're at a sports event, you need to stand up. And there's just lots of easy places to incorporate, balance. And
And
maybe go
what
ahead.
would you think would be like a good practice, right? Like, and I love to, because, it would be a good habit. Is it something that you need to do all the time? Is it something that you need to do once a week, once a month, once a day? Like, what is like a recommended frequency? How does that look like in terms of us supporting that and being able to develop good balance?
Right. I would recommend practicing every day, even if it's just, 5 minutes every day. And again, you could practice standing on one leg. You could practice, you know, um, walking heel to toe, walking on that tightrope kind of balance. But I would recommend doing it every day because what happens is, people start and then they don't continue and then they get frustrated and then it's just kind of this loop. And so consistency is key for sure. Consistency is key, and
Absolutely.
being patient with yourself because it is, it can be kind of defeating, when we realize, oh gosh, maybe my balance isn't so great and I need to start practicing it, and then I do it and then I don't feel like, or they rush into it and they're not doing it consistently, and so then they just like, I'm not going to do it, and then it's too late. Actually, it's never too late to practice balance. I need to say that it is never too late. You are never too old to practice balance. Never.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I mean, just to be like, and I'm going to be very vulnerable here. Like, I was surprised, right? Like, and mind you, like, to think about it, I love walking and jogging. Like, that's like my type of exercise. That's like my moderate exercise,
Yeah.
cardiovascular activity. When it comes to strength training, like, it's not my favorite. I really have to make myself do it. Then I started struggling with like frozen shoulder, and I'm like, okay, like that kind of like gave me a little bit of a setback. But yoga was always intimidating, which is why we connected. And I started like
Hmm.
talking to you, and I'm like, okay, like I have always felt that all these poses. And now thinking about balance, because the CDC has like a huge PDF file. Like, if you Google it, you're going to find it. It's like so many things. But there's a section and their recommendation for balance, which I'm a bit surprised. I feel like it's a bit late. It's like 60, 65. And I'm like, I'm in my 40s, and I feel that I need to start working on that now,
Yeah.
because when I started doing the things that you were suggesting, I'm like, oh wow, like I am really struggling a little bit here.
Hmm. Hmm.
But what I loved about, there was one particular video that you created that I enjoyed tremendously, and that had to do with the fact that you gave modifications. They were like, well,
Hmm.
if you're not as strong when it comes to balance, start here. And then if you feel that it's a bit too easy, then challenge yourself a little bit and lift your leg up. So you were
Hmm.
giving some options so that I feel that in a way I felt not so bad. I felt like,
Right.
okay, like I may not be the advanced level, but there is something that I can do and something that I can look forward to getting.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean,
definitely great.
yeah, I mean that to me is what is that's important to me. I want people to be able to meet themselves where they're at in their balance once they figure out kind of where they're at, and then to be able to ease into it as a an incremental. I call it just
Hmm.
incremental, and it's functional. And so ease into it so that they feel like they're succeeding and progressing in their balance.
Yeah. And as a health coach, I would say like the one trick, if it is something new and you already kind of provided some tips with it, is pair it with something you already do.
Hmm.
You brush your teeth in the
Yeah.
morning. So
Yep.
pair with that. With me, like I have to put my son on the bus to go to school, and we're waiting outside, and as we were waiting I made it a little bit of a game that we're like hopping, or we're like, okay, let's stand on one foot and then let's balance a little bit more, right? Like even walking and pausing, and
Right.
it's making it into a bit of a game. And even in the playground there are a lot of these beams and things that you can walk and kind of see, okay, how much can you actually balance.
Hmm.
And I have to say again, I didn't do so well last time I tried that, but the fact that, oh, okay, like I can incorporate this, so I'm trying to do that every single day. So every time I get the chance, I'm like, okay, like I'm going down the steps or up the I'm balancing, I'm trying to
Hmm.
experience that. So
Hmm.
grab any opportunity that you can so that you can incorporate that and get better. Now, I'm curious about one thing. I know the core is super important. What are really the muscles? Right? Like, because sometimes we think about balance and we think about, oh, only the legs are involved.
Yeah.
What are the other muscles that are involved in this? And what
Right. So you
else
have
can we do to be strong overall?
right. Right. So you have some obviously deeper abdominal, lower abdominal muscles, your glutes and your hamstrings also, which are I know part of the hamstrings are part of the leg muscles, but it's really more the hip, the muscles around the hips, the lower abdominal deep ones, deep muscles, and uh, from a yoga standpoint, and I put a video out on this. Is there are three, I'm going to call them simple, and there are ways to progress in them as well. Three poses. The first one is a bridge pose, and it's done laying down. The second one is a forearm plank, and you could do that when kneeling or full kneeling or full
Mhm.
plank, full forearm plank. That actually is supposed to be a whole body toner, which is really great for core.
Okay.
And then the third one was bird dog, and there's different ways to do bird dog because that's a opposite limb kneeling balance, and a lot of people have a hard time with that even in the classes. And
Mhm.
so again, I just teach them in incremental ways. Just meet yourself where you're at, and give you options so that at least you could find a starting point and then increase with confidence,
Mhm.
and get to that place where you're in the full pose and you're like, I'm doing it, and that kind of thing. And then beyond that, there's so many more core exercises you can do. But those three, I think, can be pretty easy functional to do for
So
people.
now you have no excuse. You can take like 5 minutes and start doing that and
Right.
find like a spot through your day and your schedule and incorporate
Right.
that, which is great. Now,
Right.
when it comes to balancing your plate,
Yes. Tell me
I
more about
know a
that.
lot of people, and I had it's so interesting, right? Like I love to interact with colleagues, and I had a conversation about protein, right? Like nowadays, protein, I feel like okay, it's like this sexy macro. Everybody's talking about protein, and it is not like, oh, it's being sometimes to the extreme, right? Like because it's not like the only thing. And I always say it should be balanced, right? Like we look in history and we see how before it was all about avoid fats, don't eat any fat, and then like our diet was purely based on grains. And now we're shifting from that. And now we're seeing like, oh, you should just focus on protein. And then we're kind of like not including the fiber that is in the grains. So it is so important for balance just because when you're doing all these exercises, right? Like look at what the CDC is recommending. It's saying 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week. That's about 30 minutes roughly if you do 5 days a week, about 30 minutes a day. Then you have a recommended 2 days of full body strengthening workouts, right? So that's
Right.
like another thing that you need to add. And then they're adding the balancing exercises, which we know that, to be quite honest, it could be fairly easy for you to adapt if you do these suggestions that Carol is showing.
Mhm.
But then the fact that you're strengthening your body and you're building your muscles is going to help you also counteract any chances of you developing insulin resistance. Why?
Mhm.
Because muscles are what helps you stay, your metabolism is running at a good pace. It's going to help you metabolize glucose. And even having a walk after you're eating creates
Mhm.
that balance because
Yeah.
instead of the body having to produce insulin to process that, you're already having exercise, you already need to move. So this is why movement is so important, and not it doesn't have to be like high impact. A lot of people think that they need to be sweating and they need to be very intense in order for it to count. And moderate exercise is just okay. Like I tell my clients sometimes, it's like, think about like, oh, you should be able to like, okay, like if you're talking but you're talking with a little bit like, okay, like I need a little bit of effort but you can still talk, right?
Yeah.
And it's just something that, even if it's just 10 minutes, that's the other misconception, that they're thinking that it has to be for a long period of time for it to count. I'm like, if you don't have 1 hour 2 hours to devote to be like, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to get this class, break it down. Take
Mhm.
10-15 minutes, do it in the morning. I'm like, you can take that whole protocol and break it down. So
Mhm.
the same thing goes with protein and with fiber and with fat. Some of my clients will say, oh, but I'm not eating that much protein, but I'm going to eat lots of protein for dinner, or I'm going to eat lots of protein. And then, like, okay, but then your body is not getting fueled in a balanced way.
Right. Right.
So your energy levels are not going to be the same. And when you're exercising, you do need the protein to build that muscle. So you see how like it's all super connected.
Mhm.
And then your brain needs carbs. That's like another thing that a lot of people think that, oh, like now I'm just going to eat protein and nothing else. And I'm like, well, but you need a lot of other nutrients and minerals and all these things. And Carol runs also an amazing hydration group, and I was part of it. And the one thing that we also touched on that group was about minerals, right? And
Yeah.
like, okay, these minerals
Electrolytes.
now it seems to be depleted sometimes, like in our soil and all these things, and how sometimes introducing like electrolytes to your water can help supplement that. But then there are also minerals in a lot of the foods that we eat. So if you start eliminating things, you may end up having some nutritional deficiencies. So
Mhm.
having a balanced plate, including many different things, look at different colors of vegetables. Don't just
Mhm.
get green vegetables. Make it a game every week. Pick a color and be like, I'm going to pick a color that a vegetable that is red, and let me get a red vegetable. Let me then following week, let me get
Love it.
something yellow, because when you get different colors, there are different nutrition profiles in there.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
can make it fun. You don't get tired of eating the same thing over and over, and your body's going to get different levels of nutrition. So those are the things that I would say, like, okay, if you want to stay balanced, think about these things, incorporate that, and you're going to feel better. It's not about restriction, it's not about extremes, it's about balance.
Mhm.
Now, I have a couple of questions for you now. What do you feel is the biggest mistake that people make when they're trying to improve their balance?
I think I mentioned this earlier. One was not being consistent. So if you're not practicing every day, um, your practice, your balance isn't going to get any better.
Okay.
And and along with that is, trying to jump right into balance, like standing and lifting your leg your knee all the way up, and you're wobbling, and and it's frustrating and they don't want to try it again. Start small. Just hover your foot off the floor, and once you get that mastered on both sides, not just one side but both sides,
Mhm.
then you can lift the foot up a little higher and a little higher, or practice walking. When you're walking, just take that little pause in that step and then put your foot down. There's
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, then yeah, yes.
Absolutely. And I know that you mentioned different types of exercise. If there is one exercise, somebody comes and says, okay, Miss Carol, I can only do one thing. I have 1 minute. What would be that one thing that you're like, you know what, this is the easiest, do this, and it's going to be good?
And we've talked about it already. Is standing on one leg. You can start with 10 seconds and work up to 30 seconds and beyond. So standing on one
Okay.
leg and incrementally. Yeah. Yes,
So you
definitely.
have your takeaways, right? Stand in one leg, start with those 10 seconds, and start building from there and build the intensity from there and just do
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
I would even say on my end, start looking at how much protein you're eating and not necessarily counting calories. We know that that's not the favorite for anybody, but look at your meals and see, ask yourself, where's the protein? I always tell my clients, and a lot of them are like, well, how much carbs can I get? Or well, what is the maximum? And I'm like, I don't want you to think about that. I want you to think
Right.
about not what you need to not eat. I want you to think about what you should have on your plate. You should have protein, you should have some healthy fat, and you should have some complex carbs and vegetables in there so you can have some fiber. So
Right.
that is the one thing that I would say. Don't worry too much about the portions as of yet, but make sure that, okay, where is the protein? Where, make sure that they're balanced first, and then you can worry later and tweak later as to, okay, like then how much am I actually getting? Because a lot of people are just not getting enough protein.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. Any last minute takeaways, suggestions, anything that you would like to share with the audience?
Just, like you mentioned, having fun with your plate. Have fun with balance, with your physical balance. Just make it a game. Just make it a game and have fun with it.
Yep. And if you have kids, do what I have been doing.
Yeah.
It's making it a game with my son. And even when I go to the playground, it's like, okay, like let me find ways of exercising balance. And there's a lot of things in there that
Yeah.
you can use for that. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. Now, what I am going to do, I will put on all the description, I will put how to connect with Carol, how to connect with me. We're both on YouTube, we're both on Instagram, and we both have different resources for you. So regardless of what you may need in terms of balancing, in terms of yoga, in terms of health coaching, in terms of diabetes, pre-diabetes, we may be able to help you. We may be able to have different resources. I am going to put on the chat the link for Carol's booking link so that you can have a free 15-minute balance reset. And
Yes.
I am going to put the link for my pre-diabetes starter guide. So if you have been just diagnosed with pre-diabetes, if you have a high risk of developing type 2 diabetes, maybe it runs in your family, your A1C levels maybe are creeping up a little bit, and you're a bit concerned, don't wait and see. A lot of doctors tell you to wait and see. Do not wait and see, because I can tell you what you're going to see is that A1C keep going up. So let's take steps now, the same way that we're talking about, okay, don't wait until you're 65 to think about your balance, right? And another thing that
Correct.
I know Carol and I we were talking about is, if you fall, then the likelihood of you falling again increases. So let's not get you to fall. Let's get you to stay strong, to build that strength, and to prevent that. And don't wait until you're 60 to worry about it. The same way that some people want to wait until they're type 2 diabetic to think about their blood sugar. Everybody should be balancing their blood sugar, and everybody should be working on that balance. So don't wait, whether you're 20, 40, 50, 80, as Carol said, it's never too late.
It's
Start
never too
working
late
on
to
that.
balance. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Anything else that you want to share, Carol, before we
I'm
go?
just I'm just happy to have this conversation with you, and thank you so
Okay,
much. Yeah.
awesome, awesome. We'll definitely try to do it again at some point in the future. But thank you so much. And if you were not able to catch this and you are catching it after, you can feel free. Like Carol's going to be tagged. Comment. We're going to be checking the comments. We'll answer any questions that you may have. And we would love to help you stay balanced and help you to find that balance, not just on your fork, but also on your body. Have an amazing rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.